Since the beginning of time, men have been horny. Horny men use the abilities of the horny to, get into a relationship with the woman, to initially breed and create more children, because at its core, we must recreate. So that's humanity. However, as we've evolved, there have been different schools of thought that have emerged about how do you get a woman or a man, speaking from the perspective of a man, or if you're non-binary. That's what we're here to talk about today. In Chach Science, we're going to learn about the 3 classes that every man fits into, with the occasional 4th class being described in a different school of thought. So in case you don't know what a Chach is, it's pretty much a subclass of the Chad, which, as you know, is a sexually active alpha male, quote. The term has also been used to refer to, particularly courageous or competent males, whichever way you define that. So this series pretty much tries to break down the simplest things in life that, pertain to men, from the complex units that they are into simpler beings. So today on the first official episode, we're going to be explaining the Ravenous pyramid, that is spelled Resendez pyramid, or as its slang term suggests, its true name to be, the men ain't shit triangle. Now bear with me here, this is all going to make sense very soon. So before we take a look at what exactly this pyramid entails, let's go back to the origin of this theory. The year was 2019 in a lonely college study hall, where 2 men, who will be referenced into the story as Mr. X and Mr. Y, came up with the first school of thought, the origination of the pyramid method. Since then, the theory has gone on to receive widespread praise in the world and in the universe, engaging itself in a bit of controversy, which has led to different theories sprouting up all around the globe. More of this to be discussed later, but for now, let's get into the original theory, the pyramid. So, this pyramid pretty much seeks to explain the different subclasses of the human male throughout time by defining 3 archetypes that a man or even animal could possess. They are as follows in the shape of a pyramid. If we look at the top of the pyramid, we have the Chach, the Chad, the Brandons, the Michaels, the Jeremiahs of the world fit up in this class. Men that neither hate or love women, but rather fall in this weird between. So of course, parallel to that, we have the incel, which is the bottom left of the triangle. This is where you find your Jacobs, your Jerrys, your Calebs, if you will. Men that hate women, right? And then lastly, on the bottom right of this pyramid, we've got the simp, probably the most widely known of class of males. So here we have things like the Rauls, the Alexes of the world. Men that love women a little too much to a point where they hate them. More on that subtle little hint right there later. So now that you've got an image of that in your head and how the pyramid's constructed, let's go over why this makes sense and for what purpose you should know this theory. Essentially, the pyramid itself is meant to represent the connection between the 3 subclasses of males when pursuing a partner, that is, male, female, or non-binary. It means that while one may have a particular strength in one subclass, they'll always maintain abilities and debuffs from the other subclasses. For example, take a person who has most of the abilities that make him a Chach. The ability to pursue a number of women at once without lack of energy, and is able to manipulate his personality to fit each one, and is able to obtain each and every single woman within his Rolodex. However, let's say one of the women he's pursuing rejects him. Well, naturally, if the Chach hasn't learned how to control his incel tendencies, then subtle abilities from the incel subclass will come out in the form of hatred and resentment towards that particular woman. Or say, for example, the Chach begins falling in love for one of the women he's pursuing a little too hard and drops all the other women to pursue a committed relationship with that one woman. And therein he is showing signs of the simp subclass. So, as you can see, each class plays a small little role in defining the male pursuit of women. So take this example as you will, repeat it in your head and on paper with the pyramid method of your own, and draw out some scenarios like the one you just witnessed. I promise you'll learn things about men that you never saw before until you draw it out. Maybe you'll even learn something about yourself. Maybe you're the simp. Maybe you're the incel. Who knows? So now that you know how the circle, or rather the pyramid works, let's go ahead and explain the other types of men. So as you know, the Chach is at the top. He wants what the simp and incels fight so hard to get, for what simply seems to fall in their lap. The Chach at the same time, however, believes that this ability to get any woman he wants with minimal effort is a curse and a blessing. A Chach has the ability to manipulate, cheat, steal, and handle multiple tasks at once with minimal effort. Truly an apex of the human male. The incel sits at the lower left, exemplifying qualities that show that you really hate women. The incel most likely originated from a terrible breakup or multiple failed run-ins with potential partners. Typically, the incel does not have the looks or personality to obtain a partner, or rather has the looks but a terrible personality, or the other way around. The incel thrives off of seeing women as a lesser object and something to be controlled, so pretty much pro-life. Their abilities include the sin of wrath and greed, domestic battery, and the ability to say everything without saying anything. Ben Shapiro. Lastly, we have the simp. So the origin for simp really is unknown as far as time goes, given that most men come into the dating field expecting that they have to simp for a girl to like them, based off of old 19th and 20th century notions of love and, how the media portrays a relationship to work out. They get stuck in this loop and eventually they get out. They either become an incel, or in rare cases, they'll become a Chach. I say rare because, you're born into a Chach. You rarely become it. It is possible with this new course that I'm selling. Now, of course, I'm only joking. But their abilities include the capacity to love, overcompensating, and being really clingy. So now, with each subclass explained, let's explain the subclasses of the subclass. That makes a lot less sense now. Subclasses of the classes. So in between simp and incel, we have a beta. Beta male is probably a term you've heard before, a male that lacks the abilities to get women and usually ends up in a relationship out of pity for the beta or for blackmail. Usually a beta has a violent response of an incel towards rejection, but it's typically what you would call the nice guy. You may be a beta and not even know it. This is why other theories propose that a simp and an incel are in fact the same class and are simply sheep in each other's clothing. More on that in another video. Finally, we have the cross between a Chach and a simp, which is known as a king or Alpha Centauri. Many propose that the combination of these two is a class on its own, given the uniqueness of its class being very different from the other three. And Alpha Centauri is able to not only get any partner that he wishes to, but because of his simp qualities is actually able to settle down with their partner, which in turn makes them the ideal human male. At least that's what all men want. Some men just want to be whores. And there you have it. Chach science has broken down men, and now you can use that knowledge to go out there and become the Chach you were always meant to be. Thank you for listening, and this has been Chach Science.